Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, while the MCU has a lot of heroes that are past their prime, gone for good, or those that just aren't connecting with fans, the Guardians of the Galaxy was one of those teams that seemed like it couldn't have worked back in 2014, yet it worked brilliantly, bringing about cast members who clearly understood their characters, bringing a director who knew how to make obscure characters into household names, and not only did the first film become a huge hit, but the Guardians basically became the biggest, most beloved team in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe outside of the Avengers themselves. So, after a successful sequel, a video game, and even a Christmas special, we get the third and what seems to be final adventure of this iteration of the Guardians. So, how does it work? Let's get to the story. The story here is that Rocket Raccoon has been reliving various memories of the High Evolutionary, who is the person who created Rocket Raccoon, along with a bunch of other animal-machine hybrids. Basically, the High Evolutionary is this guy who wants to create perfection, or what he sees as perfection, throughout the galaxy, which is why he's been experimenting on animals in order to create a counter-Earth, basically an Earth that's like ours, but is inhabited by intelligent animals. So while Rocket's almost on death's door, his friends, the Guardians, have to work together in order to find a way to save Rocket while also taking down the High Evolutionary, who plans on destroying everything he doesn't see as perfect and is basically viewed as a god by various alien races. But that's all I'll say about the story. The story here actually really works well for the Guardians of the Galaxy, especially considering that while it still has the humor and action that you expect from the series, it also takes a lot of time to examine these characters through their arcs. Not only Rocket with his High Evolutionary deal, but also with Star-Lord and how he's handling losing Gamora and having to start over with a Gamora from a completely different universe. Whether it's Mantis and Drax having to be the adults in the situation and proving that while they are the sillier members of the Guardians, they have their limits and they can help where many people think they wouldn't. To Nebula basically being the straight woman to all the insanity as well. And of course, it has a story that revolves around the Guardians realizing that this might be their final mission together. Not only is the whole film really filled with a lot of emotional moments, it feels like a greatest hits collection when it comes to a lot of the moments that aren't based on heavy emotion, such as the arguments between the Guardians that feel like banter between good friends who are going through rough times, whether it's the soundtrack that has great songs from the 80s, 90s, and even the 2000s, to even the action scenes that feel like they're a refreshing throwback to the Marvel fights of the old, where there's a few CGI superhumans to be sure, but it also has great choreography with blasters and swords and just full-on fist fights. Quite unlike a lot of Marvel fights that we see nowadays with other films like Quantumania, for example. On top of that, it feels like the High Evolutionary is one of those villains that really goes by how entertaining he is, by just how despicably horrible he is. He doesn't just kick puppies, he forcefully evolves them and incinerates them based on a whim. So like Jack Horner from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, you just want to see this guy get ripped apart in the end, but he's just so entertaining that you can't help but find him funny as well as awful. And the film makes absolutely no justifications for why he's this way. You just know that he's the bad guy who's going to get his just desserts, and it's very satisfying when he does. I like this return to classically hateable villains when it comes down to it. So, while there's two post-credit scenes, one in the middle of the credits and one directly afterwards, it does feel like this is the end for the Guardians, especially since it's the final film for James Gunn in the MCU as well. So, I really don't have that many bad things to say about it. It's emotional, it's exciting, it's funny, it's epic, action-packed, and it probably delivers some of the best acting and some of the best storytelling that we've seen from Marvel in a little over a year. I think it's just one of the best film of the trilogy as well. That's why I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. See you next time.